This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd Neiman.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Neiman here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. Got a special guest here today. One of the guests I've actually met in person on several occasions. This is not always the case with my guest. He's also Kansas City based. We've hired his company on a number of occasions to help us look at the sewer lines, part of our due diligence. Please help me welcome our guest, Jamie Simerly with Homestead Inspection Company. Jamie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing just fine, Ferd.
Well, good. Well, thanks for coming on. Good to have you on the show here. Well, maybe tell us a little bit more about you and about your company, and we'll dive into today's topic.
Well, our company is Homestead Inspections. We primarily deal with home inspections. We've been operating for over 25 years, and we do all your home inspection needs, termite, regular home inspections, and sewer lines.
Sounds good. What I've hired you guys in the past to do is obviously the sewer lines. So that's been helpful. Jamie's got a really slick machine where he's got a camera with a long hose under it, and he puts it in the manhole cover or puts it in the clean out and tells me there's a problem. And sometimes we run into problems with the lines, and then we run into problems with the clog. And then sometimes there's no problem, right? And recently we had to have you back at a park that there was a clog problem, and we had snaked it out ourselves with our own little roto-rooter snake machine, and some of the head of the snake fell off even because it was such a big jam. So in this case, we used you guys to help us get the city off our back because they were saying they've got a sanitary issue. And like, no, it was just a clog, not a broken line. They wanted to shut down the water to the whole park with no notice because there was a backed up line in one of the houses. It was nasty. We're like, whoa, let us tackle this. And we had to just clean it out, and then we had to get camera proof that it was fixed. And you guys were able to help us do this. So great resource during due diligence and beyond. So maybe tell us a little bit about that process, what you guys do, what you look for. And then also I'd like to touch base on just the different type of materials. And, we've got all the different sewer materials and how you can identify if there's a problem or not with the particular portion of the sewer line.
All right. For the sewer surveys, pretty much basically start off the beginning of the day. I will go out and locate each clean out that is, I go through with a map a little bit and mark out each trailer, the number and everything, and each clean out. So I know exactly which clean out it is when I come back to the office and start writing all the reports. Some of the sewer surveys tend to take anywhere between 4 to, I'm going to say 12 hours to do, depending on how many cleanouts there are, how long the line is, and what problems we do encounter. So basically, what we do is we find those cleanouts, we take our camera, and we go down as far as down through the line as possible as we can. This is because we know we're not going to get to an objective like the city main, because usually those are really far away from where in trailer parks. So we try to go as far as we can, so we have the reduced number of cleanouts that we have to go down through, and we can get you the most information. And we're not giving you double video on, say, if there's 3 cleanouts in a row with 3 trailers. Then I'm not giving you the same 3 videos over pretty much.
Right. And I want to touch that real quick, because that's important part of your deliverable is you give us a snapshot of some problems. You give us an actual video of the line that has the linear amount of feet that you're down. Okay, we're at 57.2 feet. I see dirt or I see broken pipe. And then you also tell me which direction you're facing and which trailer or port you're at. So I'm at trailer number 14. I'm facing north. I faced an objection in 5 feet. There's a problem. The line's collapsed. It's full of dirt, things like that. And
yes.
So you give us the written report. That's a stamp. And you let us follow along too. I've been on site with you several times and stuck my head down there to get a better feel, especially if you got some areas that have failure. I generally want to have a good feel for, okay, it's 25 feet from here. If I'm going to bring a home in that lot, I'm going to know, like at one park I have in Marshall, I know exactly where I was standing with you, and we have a line I've got 25 feet of Orangeburg I need replaced. It hasn't failed yet, so I haven't replaced it, but I know where it is and I've got the money budgeted for it. And I'm going to determine when I'm going to do it based on either failure or upgrading that lot to bring in a new home. But it's having that report is awesome. If I can also be on site, great. Sometimes we send you to travel different than when I'm there or our other team, but that works too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and definitely. And you said Orangeburg, and Orangeburg is definitely a nightmare. And you always want to make sure if you if you're buying a property, you want to make sure that Orangeburg is not present. And if so, you want to make sure, as you said, budgeting it in for later repairs, because it's definitely one of those materials that are definitely going to need to be replaced at some point.
Well, tell our audience, I know you and I both know, but for those that don't, tell us what Orangeburg sewer is and how you're able to identify it relative to clay or metal or PVC.
So Orangeburg is it's pretty much a fibrous wood pipe that has been pretty much compressed, kind of like cardboard, or you could actually say like fiberboard, into a pipe material, along with it's not even a resin. It's it used kind of like tar paper. It's pretty much tar paper that they put into the ground. So whenever this pipe starts to deform and everything, because after a while the water will seep into that fibrous wood material, it will actually start to reshape the pipe. And, I can honestly say it might be a root-proof pipe, because anytime I've actually seen it, any roots that are growing around it actually start to deform the pipe on the inside. But I haven't seen any root intrusion on the pipe. So they might have gotten that one correct back then. The pipe itself, it looks really black in nature, especially if you see it sticking out of the ground. If you see a pipe that's sticking out of the ground and it looks like it might like chip or kind of like delaminate off to the sides, that's most likely Orangeburg. So that would be a good guide and understanding. Now, contrary to the name, Orangeburg is not orange. It is definitely like a blackish type pipe.
Orange is going to be clay typically. And then I know from looking at camera lines with you as well, the Orangeburg tends to kind of peel off, almost papery. So that's how you can tell, right? And the inside, it's like it's a peeling cardboard box. So exactly. you wouldn't see that in clay or plastic and like that. So that was the kind of, to me, the dead giveaway. Like, okay, this is definitely not. In this example that we were together, the owner said the park had PVC, and we looked at 20 ports, and it did most of the park, but there were some portions that were still Orangeburg. And then Orangeburg typically will also, doesn't it kind of balloon? Because we looked at a park in Iowa that we dropped a contract on where it was like flat and then it just ballooned down and then eventually caved out. And then the sewer didn't really flow properly. It creates more problems. And it basically disintegrated. And the shape of the earth was there from where the pipe used to be, but that's obviously not structurally sound like actual pipe.
Oh, actually, yes. And when you're saying ballooned out, are you saying it expanded on the inside?
It looked like it expanded, but I think part of that was it kind of sunk, and then the sewer went down. And
gotcha.
It kind of eroded away the dirt underneath it, so it created a unnatural, non-linear path. Yeah, kind of like a sinkhole within the pipe. So,
exactly, and
which I haven't really seen in other materials. Yeah,
and that's the problem with Orangeburg. A lot of people don't even know it's there because it was installed so long ago. So it's definitely, if your park is, somewhere around 25, 30 years of age, at least, I would go ahead and get it checked just in case. Those materials, yes, they were made primarily in the 30s and into the 60s, but sometimes plumbers had those materials still, and we're still using them for quite a while because they weren't really they were taken off the market, but they weren't really told that they couldn't use them. So I would definitely check for those.
No, that's definitely, in my opinion, that's the worst sewer line. What's the next worst in your opinion? That has the most problem.
Well, it's a toss up between cast iron and clay tile, and it depends on a lot of factors. Sometimes with clay tile, especially depth. I did have a trailer park at one point where the trailer park was running underneath each one of the trailers pretty much in a row. Now, I don't think any of the tenants really knew, but that's exactly where each driveway spot was. was right over the top of the sewer line with no supporting material on top of it, like concrete or anything else like that, to take that pressure off of it. And whenever that happens, clay tile comes in a variety of sizes, like a 4-inch, 6-inch, but also in length. So 2-inch, 1 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot sections. And when it's 1 foot sections, a lot of times whenever you have increased pressure on top of that pipe, it ends up offsetting the pipes a lot. And that's where a lot of the water starts leaking out and washing away the supporting material, or i.e. ground underneath the clay tile, and can cause a lot of problems that way. Cast iron definitely is another one for me. Cast iron, the problems with it is corrosion, really. I've had recently a lot of homes that have cast iron drain lines all the way through them. And whenever they start to corrode, it reduces the amount of pipe that the water can actually flow into. So you could have a 4-inch pipe and it reduced down to 2 inches. That corrosion can also flake off of the pipe and cause like a delamination process where it just starts falling off the pipe and clogging up the line as well. And a lot of times whenever I see that delamination, I have started to tell people, hey, go ahead and get it it's augered out and cleaned out, because sometimes those delaminated spots reveal underneath cracks in the cast iron line, and those can be a really big problem. And you can even have it scoped. I can even scope it and not be able to see those cracks because of the delamination off the cast iron lines. So it's one of those things. If you don't have it properly cleaned out and descaled, then you don't know what you're dealing with until it breaks or anything.
Got it. I know I've had some of those problems before, and I've just run new pipe, especially on supply lines. If you're going to have to roto it out and then you're going to recamera it and see if it's going to work, sometimes it's just easier to run a new supply line versus running the whole park, is obviously very expensive. And then talk a bit for a minute more about clay tile, because I know that when I look at parks, I look at one of the things on my site visit checklist are there trees? And trees are great for shade. Trees are great for pretty, but they cause problems with falling branches, and they cause problems with sometimes falling on houses, but they also cause problems on your sewer lines, in particular clay lines. So tell us why that is and where those failure points typically are.
So the failure points with clay tile with tree roots are actually the joints of the clay tile. And as I was saying earlier, that the sections of clay tile can vary from size, from 1 foot to 2 foot to 6 foot. There are a lot of different sizes there. But in between those joints for the clay tile, they used to put a kind of like a gasket seal. Those gasket seals are commonly made out of cork and I'm blanking on the other.
Rubber, because you'll have I've heard guys call them, instead of a gasket, they call them like a coupler, or a Fernco was the company used to make them, and that's been some of the challenges when the Fernco, it has a 30-year life, and if the clay line's 50 years, you got a bunch of pipes that are pushed up together with minimal coupler.
Yes, and Fernco also makes that coupler that goes over both pipes.
Yeah.
But on the inside, I usually call them gaskets because they're pretty much kind of like a sealant. So those, after a while, they start to degrade and fall out, because of the materials that they were made with. They, especially if like the top of the line is not getting enough water or anything else like that, then yes, that is just going to shrink up and fall out of those joining areas. Now, whenever that happens, trees and tree roots start to find out where that water is. So their roots are growing towards that water. And once it gets into those clay tile lines, it's found a gold mine in there, and it's going to grow down through there and grab all the nutrients that it can get. And those are going to cause really big problems with sewer lines. And once you have tree roots in a clay tile line, there is almost no way to get rid of them. Almost no way to get rid of them. The only thing to do is maintain them. So you can have, it augered out annually and make sure that the tree roots stay small in size. And especially the one thing I tell people is You don't want them to grow thicker. When they grow thicker, they put more pressure on the sides of the clay tile, and those will cause cracks in the clay tile, and then make your clay tile unsturdy and pretty much collapse.
That's right. Yeah. You can tell you're a sewer guy when you call the stuff inside the pipe nutrients, because I don't refer to it as nutrients, but
I usually put waste matter in.
Yeah, it's moisture, and trees like moisture. So that's right. Trees,
absolutely.
Trees will find a crack and they become a big problem. So that's the downside on clay lines. In general, I feel like they can last, a long time and do okay.
Oh,
but if you got trees, it becomes a problem. And then you mentioned that if there's not enough liquid, the top half of the fern coat or the gasket can cause problems. Talk more about that, because I know I had a client that had a lagoon, and the lagoon failed the inspection, and the state inspector basically said it's not getting enough food. Basically, the park had 50 lots and only 10 had been occupied for a long time, so there wasn't enough people using the bathroom relative to the size of the pipe system and size of the lagoon system, and it was built for more. So a lot of times with lagoons, we worry about overcapacity, but in this case, it was undercapacity, and it was causing failures. Is that a similar issue with the gasket?
Well, with the gasket, it depends on the size of the line. If it's a 4-inch line and you're only getting about a 2-inch, a 2-inch water level there, of course, it's not going to hit that top of the line. And yes, that's going to dry it out faster, and that's going to make it pretty much wash down the line. With clay tile, it's one of those things. Anymore, it's to be expected that those gaskets are pretty much either gone or they are getting ready to be gone anymore, because clay tile, it's not as commonly used as it once was. And anymore, they do have rubber gaskets that are inside, that will stay inside of that line and actually stay for longer. But with the older clay tile, it just didn't work as well.
Let's cover plastic too. Obviously, that's
plastic PVC,
one, right?
Okay. Oh, I was going to say, with the clay tile line, also one of the fixes that you can do especially on certain portions of the clay tile line, is have it pretty much patched to where it is a sabot around the inside of the pipe. So pretty much, patching it that way with a resin and a cloth material.
What's the name of that process? I haven't done that, but I'm familiar with it. I forgot the name of it.
Sleeving.
Okay, got it. I've seen people try to do that with Orangeburg as well. But the challenge of that in Orangeburg is when you have those balloons or those failure spots, it's not structurally sound enough to even do the sheathing as well. Well,
and it's also a matter of space too, because once Orangeburg starts to fail, the lines tighten really inside. So if you don't have enough room to actually put a 4-inch pipe into a line that's been reduced down to 2 inches, then you're not going to be able to sleeve it at all.
Got it. Okay. I'm going to share my screen too, Jamie. Okay. I know you got I want to look at some of these images you sent me to show the difference for people. Obviously, those of you listening to audio, just use your imagination of what a sewer looks like in a trailer park. So I've got 4 images here, and I've got Jamie's shameless marketing here as well. There's his company name, his phone number, all that stuff. So show us this one here. Tell me what's going on here with previous repairs and how you can tell.
Okay, that's definitely a previous repair, because we're seeing clay tile on you see the orange section right here. That is clay tile, and back behind it is a green PVC pipe. Now, if you look up in that corner to the left, you can see that there is a black mark there. That is what a fern coat. That's usually a piece of rubber that's put around both sides of the pipe and actually secured with water hose clamp on each side.
So I like this when we get the video. This is just a still image, but you can actually tell based on the color. You can tell what the material is, and then I'll know. Okay, if we're looking right now at 10 feet from the port, and if it stays green for the next 80 feet, I know I've got 70 feet of new pipe and only 10 feet old pipe, because obviously the PVC is going to be the newer material here, and then you can tell where the joints are. And I know sometimes you can tell, and I know you have another image here, you can tell if the joint is loose based on, daylight or even dirt coming in through there, things of that sort.
Absolutely.
So let's look at the second image. You say it's a tree root. How can you tell it's a tree root looking at this image? Because it's pretty clogged.
Yeah, it is definitely pretty clogged. I would say the easiest way to tell if it's tree root, especially with the area I'm able to go in through the bottom right here, is that material is not setting on the bottom of the pipe. The tree roots you can also tell because also moving the camera helps a little bit. Then you can actually see where the tree root intrusion is coming from, and that's a dead giveaway to tell you if it's tree roots or if it's just a buildup.
Yeah, and the videos are always helpful for that too, because you can the head on his camera line, it doesn't have like a sharp blade like some of the rotor-rooter, but it can move around a little bit, and as you approach and you can back up, you can show, and sometimes you just say, I forget the term you use, but obstruction at 20 feet, can't go past it. And then generally you can tell what it is, versus if it's, toilet paper, you sometimes you can push through it with your camera, or you can at least tell, okay, it appears to be just toilet paper. Now, sometimes you don't know under that, on the other side of that clog, is there, a toy in the way or a bath towel, or is it just a thick chunk of toilet paper? So what we do sometimes is you get a guy with the snake there and he snakes it out, and then you go back in with the camera and then you can tell if it was a bigger issue or just a toilet clog.
Oh, absolutely. And it's definitely different, especially when you're using a camera through there, to be able to see the different areas with, different areas and different obstructions. And also, and I try to definitely, when I find a buildup, I try to definitely get past it. But the one thing I also want to take care of is the equipment that we're using and everything. So I don't try to majorly force it past there, because what it can do is break the seals on the camera, and then it can flood the camera. And then I'd have to stop the job at that point.
You get in trouble for that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
All
much.
right. Let's look at this. Let's look at this next photo, low areas, what that means and why you would flag that.
The reason why I would flag it is because it's water setting in the pipe. And with water setting in the pipe, it just means there's more weight on that pipe. And if it's already a low area, then the pipe is already sagging down to that point. And usually, that can be a couple different reasons why that's happening. It could be, the earth has settled since the pipe is installed. It could also be that, and I've seen this in rural areas a lot, where people drive over the sewers, and then that will create a low area. And I've seen a PVC pipe where it was a 20-foot run of PVC, and right in the middle of it, there was one low area. And that was just because they ran it over with a car. So those low areas can build up a lot of waste in the pipe as well. And they can also start to, once you see a low area, that means all your water and your waste is slowing down at that point, and it's not getting as fast as possible down to the sewer. So those can cause a lot of buildup in those areas.
Got it. Okay, let's look at this next picture. Disconnects. This looks pretty obvious, right? The pipe has shifted, and you've got one area of the pipe that's no longer married up properly with the second pipe. It's facing dirt, which is obviously going to limit your flow. That to me is a bigger problem. In this case, the Fernco's basically failed, right? And you're going to have the rotor-rooter is not going to work on this because the pipe is offset. You got to dig this up. You got to fix the pipe.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to get fixed just by setting there. With this, and if I'm not mistaken, let me look at it. Yep, it doesn't even look like there's a Fernco on it. It looks like it looks like a really big ground shift had happened and pushed that soil down along with that pipe down even farther. And actually, when I saw this, I was pretty surprised that the clay tile had not cracked at all. And I mean, the clay tile is a pretty resilient pipe. But the structural integrity, after a severed sewer is pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. Okay, well, I'm going to show you another image here, just because people want to know pricing, because people think this is going to cost me $10,000, right? No, I mean, in general, your guy's service is worth its weight in gold, because it could save me from buying a system with 6 figures of sewer problems. Or like in that case, the shifted pipe, if I've got 5 or 6, 7 of those, I got a pretty reasonable retrade with the seller that, look, your sewer's failed. You had to know this. You got to have major clogs all the time. I can then perhaps go back and get a price concession. But so basically, this is your pricing on this sheet. It's what, $200 for the first clean out, and then you charge per additional one. So sometimes I'll be with you and you'll say, look, I don't need to get 2 of them in a row because they're 20 feet apart. I've already gone 21 feet on hole one. So you guys are not looking. You're not like lawyers looking to just pad your bill every chance you get. Right? You're just
no. We want to give you the most information that we can possible out of us going out and doing a sewer survey. So, and for the best price point as well. And so our prices, yes, they're pretty much concrete and everything, but we do everything on a case by case basis. Also, there is another factor in that if we do go down a clean out and we're not able to access anything in that clean out for a viable video that I would have you pay for, we do charge an inaccessible line fee. But that you will also get a picture with that notated along where that clean out is, and you'll have that information ready to give to a plumber to say, hey, I need this line cleaned out.
Right. So for people who are listening only on this, all in, I mean, if $200 for the first one, if he does 10 of them, you got another $750. So you're at $950. If he's got to travel a little bit, you're gonna have a few $100. And if he got to spend the night, a couple $100. So all in, we're talking anywhere from $800 to $2,000, typically around $1,200 to $1,500, and you get yourself a full assessment of the sewer situation. You can get yourself detailed notes per port, video, photo. So I advocate doing this on every single property. There's been a couple times where I haven't, because I've verified myself that I have all new sewer. Like, I was told on one property, it was 2 years old, water and sewer, and it looked like it coming out of the ground. There was, PVC and there were PEX lines, but being the skeptic that I am, I dug one of them up at random, dug down 4 feet and said, okay. Because I was like, maybe they just I was pretty paranoid. Maybe they just put this port in sticking out of the ground, but it's not the main line. And I found the main line. It was the same material. So they had spent almost $1 million on infrastructure. It was a 100-pad park. So
that's awesome.
I was don't trust and verify. So I did verify. So in that case, I didn't hire you guys, but
absolutely.
I got my exercise in. Everybody listening to this knows I didn't actually dig that hole, but I'm going to pretend that I was the one that Roberto and I dug it. I helped.
That's fair.
All right, Jamie, this is good stuff. What other tips or tricks or horror stories do you want to share with our audience before we go?
Well, there is a good trick. If you want to know, say if you have a manhole outside of your home and you want to know if your sewer is connected to it or not, there is a pretty good way to find out. I call it the plumber's trick, and sometimes I do it to save people money on because I will go and do a home inspection and they'll ask me, hey, can you locate the sewer for me? Well, it's that manhole out there. Well, how can you tell? I'll show you how. You take a pipe wrench, you go out to the manhole, and you make sure somebody's listening into the open clean out on the inside of the home, and you hit that manhole about a good 3 times. The sound will reverberate from there and go into the home, and you can tell it's a connected pipe.
I've seen you do that. Good stuff. Yeah. And that also tells you, I know we looked at a park here in Kansas City together where some of the supply lines had been replaced, but we didn't know. And in this case, I actually got a homecoming there next week. The old line still worked. The guy just didn't unclog it properly. So he added a plastic line, but the old line went straight to the manhole cover, like 25 feet away, and you cameraed it and it goes all the way in. You can see your camera drop off at the end of the video and end up in the manhole cover. So it's like, well, I don't know why they put in a supply line, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use the original that I know goes into right there into the manhole cover. So that's definitely a good trick. Another trick I like to do is I'll pull off the manhole covers and I mark them if I get an Alta survey with the table A, they're already kind of marked by the surveyor. But if I got to mark my own site map, when I just get a base Alta survey, they won't have the manhole covers. I can draw on there which direction the main lines are. So I recently was on site and my manager couldn't figure out this with one big clog, couldn't figure it out. And I said, just bypass that port and just replumb it to the next one, because I know where it goes in and I know the depth of where it is because I looked under the manhole cover 2-3 years ago and I remember which direction is going, and that tells you kind of the flow and slope of your lines and some of that can help you in certain instances as well.
Well, and you also usually cite your manholes. So if you find one manhole on the other side of the park and you are standing on one manhole, you can usually just have your arm sticking out and figure out exactly which way it's going. And just, you can tell which way that line is going.
Yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other guidance before we jump?
I would, definitely just, before you go in and buy, also, one of the things I found when I've been doing the sewer surveys myself is going around and talking to people within the community that are actually living there. A lot of times they will tell you and point out problems that you didn't even know was there. So I do that a lot. And, if I see somebody out and just hanging around, they want to talk to me, I'll talk to them and, figure out what's going on.
No, that's a great general tip too. Is due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
Just ask people what's going on. Yeah, they'll tell you. And sometimes they embellish, but sometimes they're like, no, there's the sewer clogs over there all the time. Okay, great. And they point out issues. And that's why a lot of times sellers don't want you to be on site for due diligence, or they don't want you to be on site unattended because they're afraid people are going to, spill the beans on whatever the horror stories are.
Well, and I think I did one for you in Illinois, and I was going through a lot of the clean outs, and one of the residents came up to me and was talking to me and was like, well, this trailer over here was backing up. It's like, okay. So I went over there and it was an empty lot that the previous tenant had moved off of there. And I went down through his line. I didn't see anything going down through that line. But when I went to another line that was, I'm going to say about 2 trailers down, because I wasn't able to quite get all the way through there, I found the clog where that was actually causing his trailer to back up. So, I mean, sometimes, if you don't immediately find, the problem, and there is an obvious problem, definitely keep looking, because, that problem could be just around the next bend of the pipe.
No, good point. I know we just had that on that property here in Kansas City where it was the neighboring property had the obstruction that was causing us problems.
Exactly.
So city was all over us. And we're like, we can't even do it. It's on their property. Make them do it.
Yeah. And, with that, with a line going through like that looked like a city connection to me. So going down through that, and if it's going on to a neighboring property, is that a sewer line that's going straight through that the city had put in there to go to that manhole?
Yeah, good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's always hard to tell, and this is one of those things. That's why I hire guys like you, is hire the pros to do this stuff, because it's hard to tell. It's hard to ascertain, and the equipment you have is expensive, and you got to know how to use it. So we want to let you use it and put you guys to work, and you're doing good work for us. Jamie, where can people find you? Website or email or phone number?
Well, our phone number is 816-833-1090, and homestead-inspection.com. And both those ways will actually get you access to us. Whenever I do a sewer survey, we do them by quote basis. So, those 3 numbers of that graphic that you had earlier, those 3 numbers on the first top, those I can give you a definite price on. Everything else, unless you have, what manholes need to be done, what cleanouts need to be done, I can't give you an exact price until we actually go out and do all the work and then have it all ready to present to you. So I can usually give quotes, baseline quotes, but going after that with the additional fees and everything, it doesn't come out until we're pretty much done.
Fair enough. Well, you guys have always been fair, so we appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. No problem at all. And anytime somebody wants to do a sewer survey, we do have a sewer survey prices and guidelines, and that pretty much explains everything on what our services are, what to expect, what deposits that they're going to be, and what all the services are detailed. What all the services are in detailed for you, and it pretty much gives you the price breakdown and everything else like that.
All right. Well, sounds good, Jamie. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us on, Ferd.
You're welcome. Bye now.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Neiman. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.